Hi folks, and welcome to the Phone Show, where today we're checking out Nokia's latest flagship, the Lumia 930. Loaded with Windows 8.1 and crammed into a more premium shell, Nokia hopes its latest headliner can contend with the big names of Android. But the competition is mighty tough these days, meaning Nokia needs a killer hand if it hopes to succeed. We'll be finding out whether Nokia has pulled it off later in the show, but first, it's time for your smartphone news roundup. Sony reckons it's made the world's best selfie smartphone with the Xperia C3. The handset has been revealed just days after rumours around it began to emerge. It comes packing a 5.5-inch 720p display, a 1.2 GHz dual-core CPU, and a 5-megapixel front-facing camera boasting LED flash. This isn't exactly leading class, so for now we have our reservations. On the subject of Sony, we're already hearing rumblings about the Xperia Z3 and Z3 Compact just a couple of months after the company's latest flagship hit stores. Photos courtesy of DigiWow show the front of a white Sony smartphone that's thought to be the Xperia Z3. There's also a smaller black handset next to it that's allegedly the Z3 Compact. There's not really much we can take away from these images other than if they are the real deal, Sony could be skipping over the Z2 Compact altogether. And finally, more rumours surrounding the elusive Nexus 8. This time we're hearing news that a database from an import-export site has revealed the follow-up to last year's Nexus 7 has shipped to India for testing. It offers no specs or indication as to when the prototypes might be heading to stores, but we have heard from previous rumours that the Nexus 8 is being made by HTC and could come packing a 2048x1440 display and 64-bit NVIDIA Tegra 1 CPU. Now it's over to the sofa with Gareth Beavis and John McCann.
Hello and welcome to another phone show. This week it's all about Windows Phone. John, are you excited?
I cannot wait.
John's excited. The Lumia 930 is here and it's Nokia's new flagship phone. John, you saw this earlier in the year. What do you think of it back then?
I really liked it actually. Nokia finally getting a big full HD display on a phone which isn't the size of a phablet, and a little bit of metal. A nice design. It is a little chunky, but it does feel nice and premium in the hand. So signs were positive when I got hands-on with it, and the Windows 8.1 software is a big step up in useful features like just a notification bar and quick settings and things like that. Just little touches we've been waiting ages for Windows Phone. They're finally here, so that makes the whole experience a lot nicer.
Yeah. Well, we're currently reviewing it at the moment, and I feel like it's, when I first picked it up, it gave me a very similar sensation to all other Windows phones. It's well built, it's very solid, it's a quite chunky device. I mean, I quite like the metal band, but with that rubberized plastic back, I'm torn between thinking, on the one hand, it doesn't really feel very premium. On the other hand, it feels very Nokia. It's got very iconic status, from the polycarbonate all unibody aluminium, not aluminium, polycarbonate all unibody, and to this, everything's got a very sort of strong design language, and that ranges from the 930 down to the 635. And yeah, I agree with what you said. The screen is really nice. It's a full HD 5-inch display. It's got clear black technology, so it looks really rich. The colours look really, they really stand out. And yeah, I like it a lot, but it's still Windows Phone, and I'm not one of these people that says, oh, it's Windows Phone, it can't be any good. I think all operating systems have got the power to be really great. It's just that while 8.1 is better, like you said, notifications bar, quick settings, I know we've said this a million times before, the apps just aren't there. They're just not as good. Even the ones that are there generally aren't sort of in the same league as they are on iOS or Android. And I find the day-to-day operation just a little bit niggly. It's you've got the fact that you have to keep jumping in and out of menus. It's the same with the iPhone, but at least that's a little bit more intuitive. I don't know, it just still feels like a beta model of an operating system that needs to be something really great to stand out.
You like it, but you don't at the same time. Is it nicer than the S5, for example?
It depends what you really like. I mean, if you appreciate a phone feeling well built, this is a really good device. The 930 is a very solid, very well put together phone, but it feels quite thick, and the edges are very sharp around sort of with the metallic edges. So you hold it in your hand and you feel like you're holding quite a heft of smartphone. The Galaxy S5 feels quite cheap with its sort of faux chrome edging and everything, that sort of the lack of weight to it as well. But at the same time, it is light. It does fit in the pocket really well. It's much slimmer. So I'd say yes, it is better designed. It feels more premium, but you'd have to really want a solid phone.
And then looking more into the specs in terms of power, it's got a decent quad-core processor, but it's the Snapdragon 800, slightly older than the 801, which is in the Xperia Z2, the HTC One M8, the Galaxy S5, the LG G3.
All the new phones.
All the new phones, basically, the high-end ones. It's also got 2 gig of RAM, so Nokia haven't really turned down on the power, which is good, because we've seen it, in the past say, oh, Windows Phone doesn't need as much power to run, which, fair enough, but it's trying to play really with the big boys. It's the first phone to really challenge those sort of phones.
You see, that's where I'm a bit confused with Nokia. The Windows Phone, doesn't need as much power. It's like Apple's got with, the iPhone. Having a well-integrated system means you don't need to worry so much about having all the grunt to really power it. So, having a quad-core processor is good, and it probably satisfies the spec fans. Whether it's needed or not, it probably does. Nowadays, apps are getting more rich and more intensive, and I think that's probably a good thing to have, and it does satisfy people looking at the spec sheet. The problem I've got is, why go with the 800? I mean, it can't really be cost, I don't think, because there is sort of a really good vertical integration. An 801 processor would have been a really great thing on this. I think it would have, we know it gives good efficiency and good battery life. Whether it's possible, it's been integrated into Windows Phone, I don't know yet, whether it's easy to use. But it seems like a misstep from Nokia not to go with the latest hardware, because, like you said, it's competing against Galaxy S5, One M8, Z2, G3. These are all really popular phones at the moment. And to someone who sees, last year's processor on a phone, you'd have to wonder if they're thinking they get the greatest spec out of it. I think, 2 gig of RAM is more than enough. Don't need to worry about that. I mean, it's not until we get into 64-bit phones that we really need to start thinking about 4 gig or whatever. But it's a spec sheet that does enough. It doesn't wow me. It's got a fairly small battery compared to the rest as well. Not terribly, but a bit smaller. Early tests show that the battery life seems to hold up pretty well, so that makes sense. But with the chunkier device, I thought I was going to get something, maybe like 3,300. It would just last for 2 days without a worry.
Nokia are always talking about the cameras on their phones, especially the high-end ones. They're always talking about the pure view technology, all the other lenses they bring with that, the creative studio behind there as well to edit. Have you had a chance to have a play with the camera? I played it very briefly on my hands-on, and it's another solid snapper from Nokia.
Yeah, it's solid. Again, like the design, it does what it's supposed to. It's like I think most people appreciate that the Nokia Lumia 1020 is probably the best out-and-out camera phone out there. It's not a great phone. It's a bit slow. It's very chunky, but as sort of like a camera bolted to the back, it's ahead of the Samsung Galaxy K Zoom. This I hoped, given it's 20 megapixels, I thought it would be a bit better. Actually, it's solid, and it gives really good clear pictures most of the time. But it's got a fairly slow shutter speed compared. It really likes the autofocus light and everything. And then when you see things like the G3 and the One M8, using them separately, I know they don't maybe give as good a picture at the end of it, but just the day-to-day operation just felt so much better. The focus was quicker, the pictures just took more effectively. So it's hard to say, whether it's the better camera. I mean, if you like things like background defocus, which again is more of a fashionable thing to put in phones, whether people really need it, you can do it, but you'd have to take the picture, go into Creative Studio, radial, tilt shift, decide what you want there, and it's not as exact as it is with the competitors. And I think, I like the M8, the fact that it can do the background defocus straight away really easily. If anything, it should be made more of a feature. But I think for Nokia, I don't know. It depends what you want a camera phone for. If you want to take really, really good pictures, and you're going to spend time working on them and that kind of thing, then things like the Sony Xperia Z2 with its 20.7 megapixel sensor, this, and obviously the 41 megapixel 1020 are the better options. But it doesn't do enough to say this is a really slick operating system, really slick phone, and the camera is really powerful, yet slides in. It doesn't really give me that feeling.
So how do you reckon it sort of compares then to the high-end phones? Is it up there? Is it lagging slightly behind? Is it right in the mix?
Well, I mean, I'd flip that question around to you, given the fact that you've seen this from the outside with the specs. I mean, where do you think it fits in from the outset?
I'm not sure if it's quite up there. Because it's only just coming out now, the price is actually slightly more expensive than a lot of them.
Yeah.
They've all had a very small price cut, or the G3 came in quite low anyway in comparison. So it is coming a little bit more expensive, so it's a little harder to say for value. Is it really worth it? If you're desperate for a high-end Windows phone, that's the one you should get. The 1520 is just too big, too cumbersome.
Yeah.
So it's a great package, but unless you're wedded to Windows Phone, I think it's difficult not to look at the others in the race and go, well, what is Sony, what is Samsung, what's HTC, what is LG offering? And, depending on what you want, but unless you really want a really brightly coloured phone like this bright orange one here, or the Windows Phone operating system, which, it's not everyone's favourite, but there are some fans out there, and it is for first-time users. I mean, you're unlikely to buy a £500 phone, but for first-time users, Windows Phone is sometimes easier to grasp than the likes of Android with its sort of big tiles that you can easily do. So it's the best phone that Nokia have made in the Lumia series, in my opinion.
Yeah.
High-end wise.
Yeah, I think yeah, I definitely agree with that. I think it is the best phone they made. We've said that a lot before, though. You know, the 920 was the best phone, and doesn't mean it's a great device. I mean, it's not bad. It's like you said, Windows Phone really fits well for people that are first-time smartphone users. But we'd recommend for those go for the Lumia 635. You know, it's a really cheap device. You know, changeable covers, really, quite a good screen for the price. It's like under £100. It's crazy. This makes much more sense to start with that than to go with this. I mean, yeah, like I said, this is well made, but I'm trying to think who goes for it. I mean, yes, people that are wedded to the operating system. There aren't a lot of them at the moment, but if you love Windows Phone and you want the best phone, then this is kind of a no-brainer really at this point in time. But if you're on Android and you're thinking, you know what, I want to try something else, I'd probably say wait for the iPhone 6. I think that's going to really give Apple another boost forward, a real step up, and I think you probably want to have a look at that. If you're on an iPhone and you want to leave, I don't think you want to go Windows Phone. I think you want to try the huge range of Android devices out there. You know, going down to the Moto G for cheap, and then you've got the 1M8 or the S5 or the G3. There's loads to choose from there. So I struggle to see where this really fits in against the competition. You know, like I said, it has got probably a better camera than most. It's got a very unique design language, but then a lot of them do as well. The screen is good, but not the best. You know, it's kind of mirroring what the others are doing. So it's difficult to say where it fits in, really. You know, like I said, you have to have that desire to be part of Windows Phone. What I find a bit annoying about Windows Phone 8.1 is that, yeah, all the stuff's come in. So you've got the fact that you've got the notifications bar, which makes it a lot easier to see your messages. Quick settings are good. There's a load more options in the menu now, which is really good to see. So you can do the things that really matter to you if you use your phone professionally. So if you want to project your phone out or you want to share the screen, there's loads of really good things there. But it still feels very much like the same operating system I saw in preview a few years ago. I haven't seen much change. The email client back then was one of the best out there, and now it's ostensibly the same, and you have to download messages, and it just feels like Windows Mobile still lives in there somewhere. And just kind of some of the UI tweaks still feel very much like they haven't changed over the last few years, and Windows Phone needs to keep moving forward. Adding, the ability to change the tile layout and pictures behind are all really good, but I feel like I need more of an evolution. And we're talking about Windows Phone now, the Lumia 930, but it is the poster boy for that operating system at the high end, and so I'm wondering if there's still a place for a high-end Windows Phone when there's so many good low-end ones.
Another slight issue I think Nokia's going to have this is the timing. It's just a bit too late. Yeah. We've had all the high-end Androids already. This is sort of coming at a funny period, a month, 2 months after those, and then there's a sort of 6-month gap to the iPhone, which people are prepared to wait for if they really want one.
Yeah.
So the timing seems odd. If it came out MWC sort of time and actually went on sale soon after then in March, then it may be in better stead because it would be ahead of a lot of the Android high ends, and then thus carving a path for itself before everyone else gets in.
I kind of wonder whether Nokia wants to play in that water. I don't know if it's somewhere that it can really compete at this time because of Windows Phone being still being kind of like the. And it's good that it is the third place operating system. It's still not the main consideration for a lot of people. At least right now, it's got a clear track. It's got the opportunity to go out there and do its own thing and show itself off in marketing, where other phones have already been out there for a while. And it could be the sort of the big bright new thing, almost literally. But it's and you're right. It does seem like a weird time to launch it, especially when it's not running the absolute latest specs. I think that would be a no-brainer. But I like it. I'm still really struggling with where it fits in because I like it and I like what Nokia's done with it. I just don't feel like it's quite cutting it against the competition.
That's it for another phone show. Thank you very much for watching.
We've talked Windows Phone. We've talked Nokia Lumia 930. John, how do you think it went?
It was all right. It's all right.
I think it was great. So if you want to stay around, please like, subscribe, or leave a comment below. And thanks for watching.